A new alliance is quietly forming in the Arctic. While Washington debates, Canada and Finland are taking action. From rare earth mining to icebreaker shipbuilding, the two nations are combining resources to secure supply chains and open northern routes. This isn't just another bilateral agreement. It's a strategic partnership reshaping energy, trade, and security in one of the most contested regions on Earth. Today, we'll uncover why Canada is teaming up with Finland and why the US can't stop it. Welcome to GEOCAPITALIST, where we decode global wealth one power shift at a time. If you want to understand the deals that shape the future economy, make sure to subscribe. These alliances aren't front-page news, but they will determine who controls energy, technology, and resources in the next decade. Finland has long been the global leader in Arctic shipbuilding. Its shipyards in Helsinki have produced the world's most advanced icebreakers, trusted by Russia, the EU, and NATO alike. Canada, meanwhile, has struggled to maintain its northern fleet. As climate change opens the Northwest Passage, Ottawa faces pressure to assert sovereignty. But it lacks enough modern icebreakers to patrol its vast Arctic waters. Enter the Ice Pact. In 2024, Canada and Finland signed a trilateral framework with the United States to co-develop new generations of icebreakers. But what's striking is that, in 2025, Canada and Finland have gone further, deepening direct collaboration on ship design, technology sharing, and joint contracts. Finland supplies the expertise. Canada supplies the demand and financing. This partnership ensures Canada won't be left vulnerable in the Arctic. It also allows Finland to strengthen its role inside NATO, aligning northern fleets to ensure safe navigation as Arctic routes grow in economic importance. For both nations, icebreakers aren't just ships. They're a symbol of sovereignty, commerce, and security. And by pooling resources, Canada and Finland gain an edge in a part of the world where Washington is playing catch-up. If icebreakers are about sovereignty, critical minerals are about survival in the global tech race. The world cannot build electric cars, wind turbines, or advanced semiconductors without rare earths, nickel, cobalt, and graphite. In 2024 alone, demand rose between 6% and 8%, a pace expected to accelerate every year through 2030. Right now, China refines nearly 90% of these materials, leaving the West dangerously exposed. Canada is one of the few countries with both the deposits and the political will to change that. In Quebec's north, Tornget Metals has secured over 165 million Canadian dollars in funding for its Strange Lake Rare Earth project, with federal support signaling Ottawa's seriousness. Across Ontario and the Northwest Territories, projects are ramping up to extract lithium, cobalt, and nickel. But mining is just step one. Canada is also investing in refining capacity. Labs in Saskatchewan and Quebec are piloting technologies to process these materials at scale, bypassing China's chokehold. This is where Finland comes in. Finland has its own mineral reserves, particularly nickel, where it supplies around 10% of global output, and advanced expertise in sustainable mining practices. By linking Canadian deposits with Finnish refining know-how and European demand, the two countries create a secure transatlantic corridor for critical minerals. For Canada, this is leverage. For Finland, it's supply security. And for the West, it's one of the first serious attempts to replace China in a market that will define the future of global technology. Minerals and icebreakers are the hardware, but the software of this alliance is policy. And in 2025, Canada and Finland have tightened their strategic partnership under the umbrella of the Canada-EU Green Alliance. This framework goes beyond trade. It focuses on aligning rules for sustainable mining, clean fuels, digital cooperation, and even Arctic security. For Finland, the alliance provides a direct channel to one of Europe's closest NATO partners across the Atlantic. For Canada, it secures its place at the EU's decision-making table, not as an observer, but as a contributor of resources and solutions. Together, Ottawa and Helsinki are showing how smaller but strategically located nations can punch above their weight in geopolitics. Both countries are Arctic states with shared concerns about climate change and northern infrastructure. Both have advanced technology sectors, Finland in telecommunications and digital systems, Canada in AI and clean energy. And both see China's dominance in critical minerals as a threat not just to industry, but to sovereignty itself. The partnership is reinforced through joint research programs, bilateral summits, and EU-backed funding. Instead of fragmented national projects, Canada and Finland are positioning themselves as leaders in a Western supply chain that stretches from North America to the Nordics. In an era where alliances are often about military force, this one is about economic strategy. It's about who sets the standards for the clean economy and ensuring those standards are not dictated in Beijing. The United States has the resources to compete in critical minerals and Arctic strategy, but the execution has fallen behind. In rare earths, Washington has struggled for decades to restart domestic refining. Mines in California and Texas are advancing, but the refining bottleneck remains unsolved. Even when projects move forward, the environmental approvals and financing hurdles can take years. Meanwhile, demand from automakers, defense contractors, and renewable energy firms is rising today, not in 5 years. On the Arctic side, the U.S. is also behind. The American Coast Guard currently operates only a handful of aging icebreakers, far fewer than Canada or Finland combined. While Congress debates new funding, Canada is already contracting Finnish-designed vessels. Under the Ice Pact, ensuring northern fleets will be modernized within the decade. This leaves Washington in an awkward position. On the one hand, U.S. companies benefit indirectly from a Canada-Finland corridor that secures supplies for allied markets. On the other, American influence is diluted. Instead of setting the standards, Washington risks becoming a follower, forced to buy from allies who are now taking the lead. That's why this alliance is so significant. Canada and Finland are not waiting for U.S. leadership. They're acting in their own interests, and in doing so, creating a framework that the U.S. may depend on but cannot control. In geopolitics, that shift is subtle but profound. Canada and Finland's partnership may seem niche, icebreakers, minerals, Arctic policy. But zoom out, and it becomes clear this is part of a much larger realignment. Nations that were once secondary players are now reshaping supply chains, setting sustainability standards, and carving influence in critical regions. For Europe, Finland's role ensures that the EU isn't solely dependent on suppliers like China or Russia. For Canada, the alliance strengthens its case as a reliable supplier to both North America and Europe. Together, they're demonstrating that the clean economy is not just about climate. It's about sovereignty, strategy, and long-term power. The global race for critical minerals is only beginning. Demand for nickel, cobalt, and rare earths will double in less than a decade. Whoever secures those supply chains will also secure leadership in the industries built on them. Electric vehicles, renewable energy, advanced computing, and defense. Canada and Finland understand this, and they're moving now before the window closes. For Washington, the lesson is clear. Waiting means falling behind. For Beijing, it's a warning shot that its monopoly may not last forever. For Europe, Finland isn't just a Nordic neighbor, it's a reliability anchor. As an EU and NATO member with deep engineering talent, ice-class shipbuilding, and a mature mining and refining ecosystem, Finland sits at the intersection of energy security and industrial strategy. Its strengths in nickel production and refining, plus battery materials know-how, feed directly into Europe's plans to electrify transport and harden supply chains. This is where Canada slots in with maximum leverage. Canada brings scale in critical minerals, nickel, cobalt, graphite, rare earth potential, long experience in responsible project development, and a growing midstream push, pilot separation lines, metallization, and early magnet work. Pair that with Finland's refining competence and EU market access, and you get a transatlantic lifeline that moves from rock to refined input to finished component, inside trusted jurisdictions. For European automakers and turbine manufacturers, the payoff is planning certainty. Multi-year offtakes tied to transparent standards beat volatile spot markets and single-point dependencies. Ports from Helsinki to Hamburg can schedule flows with ice-class vessels that keep cargo moving year-round, even as northern routes become more accessible. Financing follows certainty. Export credit agencies, the European Investment Bank, and Canadian institutions are more likely to fund projects that sit under aligned rules on traceability, emissions, and recycling. The result is not just energy resilience, but technology resilience, steady inputs for battery plants, drivetrains, and advanced electronics. In short, Finland provides the EU doorway, Canada brings the supply muscle. Together, they turn Europe's climate targets into bankable, shippable reality. A Canada-Finland corridor doesn't stay regional. It reshapes incentives worldwide. First, it pressures competitors to upgrade. When buyers can source audited, low-emission materials under aligned EU-Canada rules, producers elsewhere must match those standards or risk losing market share. Expect more transparent emissions accounting, stronger environmental safeguards, and expanded recycling to keep pace. Second, the corridor catalyzes a flywheel of industrial clustering. Refining attracts metallization. Metallization attracts magnet fabrication. Magnet makers pull in motor, pump, and actuator producers. Around that cluster come testing labs, certification services, and university research. Finland's engineering schools and Canada's materials research hubs can run joint pilot lines, shortening the path from lab breakthrough to commercial scale. Third, shipping and insurance recalibrate. Ice-class fleets supported by Finnish design and Canadian demand create reliable winter logistics, lowering risk premia on northern routes. As reliability improves, insurers price cargo more competitively, unlocking further trade in components, cathode materials, permanent magnets, precision alloys that historically relied on longer southern lanes. Fourth, standards spill over into allies. The Baltics, Sweden, Norway, and Germany can plug into a rule set already accepted by EU regulators and North American financiers. Asian buyers seeking non-Chinese inputs gain a second lane, particularly for premium applications where provenance matters: medical devices, aerospace, high-efficiency motors. Finally, capital allocation shifts. Pension funds and sovereign investors prefer predictable frameworks. If Canada-Finland demonstrates steady throughput and compliance, long-dated capital will migrate from speculative plays to this rules-based corridor. Quiet execution becomes a competitive advantage, compounding year after year. The next 12-18 months will tell us if this alliance hardens into infrastructure. Watch 3 signals. 1. Arctic assets. Track keel laying and contract milestones at Finnish yards, plus Canada's procurement and crew training for new ice-class vessels. Year-round logistics are the backbone. If ships arrive on schedule, the corridor gains credibility. 2. Midstream capacity. Look for Canadian pilot separation lines reaching nameplate output. First metal pours and early magnet fabrication announcements near automotive and wind hubs. Refining and magnets are the bottlenecks. Cracking them is the inflection point. 3. Bankable offtakes. Multi-year contracts linking mines, refiners, and OEMs, paired with traceability and recycling clauses, turn a strategy into cash flow. Policy glue matters too. Alignment with EU critical raw materials rules, Canadian tax credits for processing, and harmonized auditing will lower financing costs. Expect joint R&D calls, workforce programs, and recycling targets that tighten the loop from mine to magnet to recovered materials. If these pieces land, the corridor shifts from promising to inevitable. If you found this breakdown valuable, watch our next video. It connects directly to what's unfolding. And don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us decode these global shifts without compromise. Let us know in the comments. Is this simply a strategic Arctic partnership or the first building block of a Western critical minerals network? Either way, the world is watching. This was why Canada is teaming up with Finland, and the US can't stop it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.